What's up? What's happening? What is going on, Cantaloupes? Welcome to New Mexico. I'm going to be traveling a lot in the future, so get ready for my backgrounds to constantly be different. If you want to keep up with my travels, you know where to find me. Now let's get over to the actual video. Everyone knows the 10 Commandments, right? Thou shalt not kill, thou shalt not steal, and thou shalt not trade a superstar without equal or greater value. You're probably all aware of past legends getting traded for nothing, but you may not be aware that some of today's top stars were virtually given away for free. These are 10 superstars you didn't know were traded for nothing. This is fun that I'm doing this outside. Greg Olson. Greg Olson spent 4 years in Chicago. In the 2011 offseason, Chicago dealt Olson to the Panthers for a 2012 third-round draft pick. Olson became a huge weapon for Cam Newton in Carolina, being named to 3 Pro Bowls while leading his team to a Super Bowl. The Bears winded up trading that third-round pick and got absolutely nothing for Olson. LaMarcus Aldridge. The 2006 NBA draft was the absolute worst. One of the only bright spots from it was the Chicago Bulls drafting a future star in LaMarcus Aldridge. That was with the 2nd overall pick, but immediately traded Aldridge to the Portland Trail Blazers in exchange for Titus Thomas and Victor Carapa, whose name isn't even worth trying to figure out how to actually pronounce. Aldridge has become one of the most dominant big men in the game. He's been named to 6 All-Star games and averages nearly 20 points per game. Vontae Davis. Davis was one of the top up-and-coming cornerbacks in the NFL. Him and Sean Smith seem to be creating an awesome secondary in Miami, but for whatever reason, my Dolphins traded him away to the Colts for a 2nd-round pick in 2013. And they used that 2nd-round pick on another cornerback named Jamar Taylor. Taylor wasn't great and was ultimately traded to the Cleveland Browns in 2016. Tyler Seguin. Seguin played 3 years for the Bruins. He won a Stanley Cup in his rookie year, scored 67 points in his sophomore season, and helped Boston reach the Stanley Cup final again in 2013. Makes sense to keep a young superstar around, right? Well, Boston didn't like Tyler Seguin's style of partying outside of the ice, so they dealt him to the Dallas Stars. Here's what happened with the 4 pieces they got in return. They got Louis Erickson, who was injury prone and played 3 years in Boston. There was Riley Smith, who was a solid forward for Boston for 2 years, but then was traded to the Florida Panthers, where he actually became an exceptional player. There was Matt Frazier, who played 38 games with the Bruins, and then Joe Morrow, who played 65 games with the Bruins. Meanwhile, after all that, Seguin has become one of the NHL's top scorers in Dallas. Jacob Arrieta. Arrieta was drafted by the Orioles in 2007 and spent a few years in their system. However, he was really going nowhere and was ultimately shipped to the Cubs in exchange for Scott Feldman and Steve Clevenger. Feldman played 1 season in Baltimore, while Clevenger was only used as a backup catcher. Arrieta, on the other hand, turned his career around with the Cubs. He won the 2015 NL Cy Young Award and helped the Cubs win the 2016 World Series. LeSean McCoy. Few running backs were as elusive as LeSean McCoy during his time with the Eagles. Shady helped his team win 2 division titles while rushing for 1,000 yards 4 times. Chip Kelly was silly enough to trade McCoy to the Buffalo Bills for Kiko Alonso. Don't get me wrong, I mean, Kiko is a good player, but while McCoy continues to dominate in Buffalo, the Eagles only had Alonso for 1 season before happily dumping him to the Dolphins. Dirk Nowitzki, 13-time All-Star, 2011 NBA champion, 2007 MVP, surefire Hall of Famer. Dirk Nowitzki has had an incredible career with the Dallas Mavericks and really completely reversed the team's fortunes. And yet, it wasn't even the Mavs who drafted him. The Milwaukee Bucks selected him with the 9th overall pick in '98, but shipped him to Dallas in exchange for Michael Traylor. Joe Thornton. Thornton was a perennial all-star and the face of the Boston Bruins franchise for 8 years. However, the Bruins were awful during the 2005-2006 season, and the media began criticizing Thornton's leadership. He was traded to the San Jose Sharks in exchange for, three decent players, but no superstars. Thornton would win both the scoring title and the Hart Trophy that year with the Sharks. He'd become one of the NHL's most consistent scorers in the rest of his career. Anthony Rizzo. The Red Sox had Rizzo in their farm system, but dealt him to the San Diego Padres in a package deal to land Adrian Gonzalez. But in 2012, the Padres dealt Rizzo and a prospect to the Cubs in exchange for Andrew Kashner and another prospect. Kashner spent they were mediocre years in San Diego. But what about Rizzo? I mean, he's a three-time All-Star and has become one of baseball's top all-around first basemen. The 2016 Gold Glove winner helped Chicago win the 2016 World Series, while the Padres have just been awful on a yearly basis. Kawhi Leonard. The idea of having Kawhi Leonard and Paul George playing together sounds nothing more than a dream come true, except it actually should have happened. Leonard was drafted 15th overall by the Pacers in 2011. He was immediately dealt to the Spurs for George Hill and two other players. Now, don't get me wrong. Hill was a solid point guard for the Pacers, but Kawhi is a top 5 player in the NBA right now. He won the 2014 NBA championship and Finals MVP. He replaced Tim Duncan as the face of the NBA's golden franchise. Big missed opportunity. What other superstars were traded for absolutely nothing? Let me know in the comments down below. Let me know if you know any cool things happening in New Mexico or Colorado, where I'll be next. Until next time, I'm just in a front yard. I'm Mike Cantalupo. See you later.